You just may be the most talked about personality in the country today. And not all the talk about you is good. There's a lot of hostility toward you. However, you tell me that in your recent visits to the Midwest, you find a friendly spirit?
I find a spirit that wants to learn. I have a very profound belief that the American people, of whatever party, class, sector of the society, given information that they know is documented, will listen and want to do something about it. I think we all have a fundamental belief in the democratic ideals upon which this country was founded, and it's just a matter of getting the information.
Now, obviously, when you're engaged in this kind of emotional effort, you're exposed to some abuse, verbal abuse, and you've seen that, you've heard that.
I've given some out myself. Do you know that 2 years ago I didn't know where Vietnam was? And when people first started telling me what we were doing there, I used to insult people, so I understand when people insult me. It is hard to hear the true facts, and we're being lied to, and I deeply resent, as most Americans do, we have found, you know, from policemen to working people to housewives to everybody. When they find out that we're being lied to, they get angry, you know, and they want to change things.
Yeah. So you're up now then, because of, you feel emotionally up, or are you encouraged by your efforts now?
Very, very
And
encouraged.
that encouragement is what is the source of that encouragement? The response that you're getting from?
Well, we arrived in Ohio to launch the Indochina Peace Campaign, which is a campaign independent of either candidate, which is going across the country into 7 states to keep the war on the front page, to inform people that the war is not winding down, and we should know it, and we should know it in a way that is serious and documented. We arrived in Ohio. We did 3 churches, a Catholic church, a Methodist church, Baptist church, the Ohio State Fair, the Montgomery State Fair. We spoke at 2 very large halls, and the reception was fascinating. People were interested. They listened. We got into conversations with people, policemen who came back twice to talk.
Nobody yelled, "Why don't you go live with them?"
Nobody did. Although I'm sure that there are some people who believe that. And what I say was, you know, that I used to live in France. I lived in France for 7 years. And when I found out what was going on in Vietnam, I came back here because I thought that this is the place where Americans have to be if they really care about what is happening, if they really want to change things. And I believe that the people who are speaking out against the war, be they Republicans or Democrats, are patriots. Mm-hmm. I resent the fact that our flag is being taken away from us by people who are bombing civilian targets, keeping our prisoners of war in the jails there. The prisoners of war themselves are aware of what's happening. I talked with 7 of them, and they said to me, we believe that if Richard Nixon is reelected, we're going to be here forever.
You don't think they were brainwashed?
I asked them if they were brainwashed, and they laughed, and they said, well, we read Time and Life and Newsweek and the New York Times, and they said, tell our families that we are being taken care of all right. The living conditions are sparse, but they're better than the Vietnamese, because the Vietnamese know that if we had to live the way they did, we would probably die, because the Vietnamese live on just a handful of rice a day. They paint, they teach each other classes. They were very strong, healthy, interested, intelligent men who were thinking a lot of new kinds of thoughts because of the kind of books that they'd been reading about our own history, American history.
You recognize Jane Fonda, and we hope that on this program you'll join us. Hi, Jane Fonda, thank you. Hello there.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm on the air now?
Yes, you are.
All right, then I'd like to ask just 2 questions and 1 statement. Why is it that when the establishment has been so good to this girl that she has turned pro-communist? Also, why...
Hold it. Let's talk about that, okay? You feel that Miss Fonda's made a lot of money in this country and she should support it.
I do support this country. As I said before, I came back here because I love this country, and I believe that in order to preserve the ideals upon which we are founded, this is where I have to be. I am not a communist. I just believe that the war in Vietnam is turning other countries around the world against us. I believe that we cannot survive as as a democratic country, when we are supporting someone like Q in Saigon, who has put 300,000 political prisoners in jail because they've spoken in favor of peace, I just don't believe that when a Republican Party bugs the Democratic Party headquarters, that smacks of democracy. These kind of things I speak out against. That doesn't mean I'm a communist.
How do you feel about that, sir?
If she doesn't like it here, I believe that she should coincide with all of those people over there and cohabit with them.
Oh, well, you have very nice manners, sir.
Well, thanks for calling. Hi, Jane Fonda, hello.
Hello. I was wondering, I heard on a press conference Miss Fonda had in Columbus, Ohio, that she was not actively supporting, through her efforts, the McGovern campaign efforts in themselves, and yet we know she isn't pro-Nixon. So I was wondering if she does plan on using her American right to vote this fall, and if so, if she's going to support McGovern.
I, as an individual, am going to vote for McGovern. The Indochina Peace Campaign with which I'm working, traveling across the country, is not campaigning for any one candidate.
This is what I thought you meant.
Yeah, we're campaigning for peace. We believe that we have to put pressure on both candidates. Even if McGovern were elected, he might trick us. And we have to be sure that we are an informed public and we can prevent either person, either McGovern or Nixon, from tricking us any longer.
Well, this is it. Are we sure that although McGovern is promising different things than Nixon, is he going to go, is this just campaign promises, and once he gets there, is he going to continue on his same vein?
The record, McGovern's record on the war, would indicate that he would probably follow through, probably end the war, but he is only the Democratic candidate because of the people of the United States and the people who have protested the war. So we have to be sure that we continue to do that.
If Nixon were to discontinue the bombing, to stop it altogether, and Kissinger were somehow able to effect a settlement in Paris, could you support him in November?
Well, see, I don't think it's just a matter of stopping the bombing. During the Kennedy and Eisenhower administrations, for example, there was no bombing, and there was a Vietnamese government in Saigon, but it was a Vietnamese government that was installed by the United States. A man called Diem, who was a protege of Cardinal Spellman, who had sat out the war against the French colonialists in the Maryknoll Seminary in New Jersey, was taken out of New Jersey into Saigon as the United States alternative, nationalist alternative to the resistance forces. The Vietnamese people are saying, we want freedom and independence. We don't want a government that is imposed by the United States. And they're not asking for a communist government. So if Richard Nixon, I would hope that Richard Nixon, if he was elected, would not only stop the bombs, which are being dropped at a rate, as Daniel Ellsberg said yesterday, that is unprecedented in the history of warfare, but would allow the people to control their own country, the people of Vietnam. Not a communist Politburo. That's not what they're asking for.
Thanks for calling. Jane Fonda, hi.
Hi. I'd like to ask her a question. During the early years of 1960s and the 60s, didn't she campaign about the boys joining the service and going to Vietnam, trying to get boys into the service?
Did you ever cut a spot, public service, commercial?
No, I never did.
Well, it seems to me that she has, and I remember back in those early years where she was out asking the boys to go to Vietnam to fight.
No, I never did. I was someone who was totally apolitical. I never had anything to do one way or the other with politics because I thought I was completely helpless.